All right. So the next one is Unit 16. I have to say it again because in the recording it should come. Topic is presentation techniques and introductory activities. So what are presentation techniques and introductory activities? Presentation techniques are the ways used by the teacher to focus learners' attention on the meaning, use and sometimes form of new language when introducing it to them for the first time. So for the first time when you are going to start a lesson and teaching that, so presentation techniques are used in order to make them understand. Simple as that. All right. And introductory activities are activities used by the teacher to introduce a lesson or teaching topic. Now, introductory activities is when you are going to present that lesson, in that the lesson, how you do some kind of activities introducing that lesson to them to make it more interesting for them. Now here, if you see, we have got the lesson two different ways. Look at the presentation stages, the areas that are shaded. Shaded areas you can see with the light blue in your books. Okay. In these description of two lessons for elementary level secondary school student, how are the stages different? What different presentation techniques, mean ways of presenting, do they use? Now you people have to go through this. This is the first one is PPP method, second one is Tbl method. We have talked about it. Now if you see here, aim is in the PPP for students to learn the difference between countable and uncountable nouns and when to use a and some with them. Okay. Other side, TBL lessons, aim for student to choose food and drink for a birthday party. TBL, starting with a task. PPP method, starting with the presentation properly, the lesson which we do. Now, there are about, I think, how many points are there? Hmm. 9 points are there in the PPP methods and 7 points are there in the TBL method. So you people take about 5 minutes time and go to the PPP method and the shaded areas, particularly check it. And then I'm going to discuss this with you, that what's the difference between one way the teacher is presenting the lesson and other way the teacher is presenting the lesson. Okay, so please take your time, 5 to 8 minutes for that, and go to both the lessons. All right, then we are going to discuss it. You got it? Okay. Everyone has got the book. You have your books with you, right? Yes, okay, sir. Fine. So in your own books, go through that. Page number 90 and 91. And then the shaded areas, especially keeping in mind, then we are going to discuss the, oh, it clapped. So then we are going to discuss the differences and similarities and the way it differs from each other, okay? Right. These lessons plans show two common and different ways of presenting new language items. Both lessons are new language items they are presenting, and both have two different ways. There are several differences in how they present them. PPP method one, the one which is on the left. Language is clear, aim and focus of the lesson. Clearly, it tells what the teacher is going to teach. Point number two, the teacher first puts the target language, the language selected for the learning, into a situation which shows what it means, a situational presentation. That is called situational presentation in step one. Then the teacher then makes sure that the students remember previously studied language needed to practice the new language by eliciting it, giving example of it, giving reference to that previous one, by asking students to say the language rather than giving it to them. Step 2 and 3, this is the point discussed there, right? Then comes to the next step. The teacher next models the target language and the students just listen. Step 4. Next, the student then repeat the target language in choral drills. You people need to know what is choral drills. You can find that in the glossary. And these things you people have to see what they are doing, what type of drills are there, what type of activities and tasks, and what are they called. This you have to make a list of with you, okay? A very controlled and restricted practice activity. For example, one in which they can use only the new language and without making mistakes. Step 5, they do this, okay? Next, the teacher tells students about grammatical use of new language. Step 6. Then the teacher asks the student concept question. What is concept question? Question that check their understanding of use or meaning of the new language. Concept question. When you teach something, then regarding that, you ask another use of it in a different situation. That is called concept check question, in which you ask this concept questions in order to be confirmed that they have learned that thing and they can recognize that thing in a different situation as well. Step number 7 is that about it. Then the students then do a control practice activity focusing on form. Step 8, control practice activity, okay? Then further practice activities focusing on meaning in step 9. Is this clear about the PPP lesson? What all the steps they have done? This is the explanation of it, okay? Now we will go further and see. You can see that the presentation stage of the PPP lesson 4 to 7. 4 to 7 step is the presentation. They are talking about that area, 4 to 7. The teacher first set up a context, a situation. The teacher is setting up a situation for presenting the new language. Now there the teacher is making a situation, presenting the new language what she is going to teach. Shows its meaning, then models. What do you mean by model? Teacher is doing modeling. What is modeling? One modeling is that Uttara people are doing at Odell. That is presenting the new kind of designs and all that. But the teachers are also doing model. What? Provides a model for students to copy. An example, okay? The target language for students to repeat before highlighting the form and use of language through drills. and concept questions. Concept checking, which gives students the opportunity to notice and focus on these. The lesson then moves on to the practice stage. So this is what is happening in the PPP method. Is this clear to you, the steps which the teachers has taken and then explanation over here? Any question regarding it? This is one way when you are using PPP method. So this is the usual way as a teacher we do the PPP method, presenting a lesson. Commonly, that's the method which we adopt. Now we will talk about the TBL method, which is on the right side. Task-based learning lesson. The aim of the lesson is for students to complete a task. Now they are starting with a task. Okay. The teacher starts by contextualizing the topic. Contextualizing mean these things you people have to remember the meaning, okay? Memorize these meaning of whatever these we discuss, all choral drills, control practice, restricted activities, okay, eliciting, modeling, concept question. This should be clear to you. Contextualizing the topic mean putting in situation which shows its meaning. Contextualize it, show a situation, and that is done in the step 1 the teacher is doing. The teachers give the student tasks to do. What is the task given? In step 3, 4 and 5 the teachers give tasks to the student to do. Okay. Next, the teacher and student discuss any new problematic language they needed for the task. Step 6. In the step 6, the teacher and student discussion is there, new or problematic language they needed for the task. Then lastly, the students do a task to consolidate the language. Consolidate the language mean to reinforce. Reinforce mean like you do some kind of activity in order to make sure they have learned it better. So once you teach one way, then you give some example, then example you are giving some practice on that. What are you doing with all this process? You are consolidating the topic, mean making it sure that they have understood it well. The meaning of consolidate is clear to you. You can find that further in the glossary as well. And it's very important as a teacher, we do consolidation with the student. Whenever we are teaching something, we make sure they have learned it. So when we want to make it sure that they have learned it, we ask different concept questions from them. We ask the use of it in a different ways. We ask some questions from them indirectly, that whether they have understood it or not. So that is, we are consolidating, reinforcing also it is used for that. Right. You can see that TBL lesson, the presentation of new language, step 6, in fact follows the stage in which students use the new language. This allows the students to focus first on the meaning of the new language rather than its form. In the step 6, in the TBL lesson, their focus is on the meaning, not on the form of the language, as compared to the PPP method. A PPP approach to presenting new language focuses directly on both the meaning and the use and form of target language. Now, when we come to the PPP side, so there the focus is on meaning also, the focus is on use also, and the form also. All these three. But when it comes to the TPL, focus is more on the meaning. Why? Because it is practical task. Right. So further it is, and it gives students an opportunity to practice language in safe learning environment. Now, in the PPP method, when we do this teaching of the language in that focusing on meaning, form, and use, so what happens there? We provide safe learning environment. Now, what do you mean by safe learning environment? Safe learning environment means that the students are focusing on that point, and the chances are less to make mistakes over there. Why? Because you give restricted practice activities to them, gap filling and this kind of, so very less chance are there to do mistake. Compared to that, if you ask them to speak on a topic, so there are a lot of chances that they will do mistakes, and they will be kind of like, accumulating the words and all these sentences, that how to say that. But as compared to that, in this method where you are doing controlled restricted practice activities, that is called safe learning environment. While less chance are there of making mistake, and they are focused on the particular point, and they feel easy to do that, compared to that when you give an open activity to them. All right. Learning environment, a safe learning environment is clear, this point? Yeah. It does not mean that safe learning environment like a protected area and in the school and fencing and all that. No, not, that is another way of safe environment. But this is the learning safe environment, how they learn easily, Fine. So where is it? Where is it? Yeah. Where it is difficult to make mistakes in the safe learning environment, it can therefore be quite confidence building approach for students. So in the safe learning environment, when they do the practice of the restricted activities, controlled practice activities, so they build up confidence in themselves. Why? Because they understand that, yes, we did that perfectly. My answer was clear. It was correct. Okay, yes and no, true false, this kind of. Okay, but it makes students learn language item they may not be interested in or ready to learn. Now we talk about the PPP approach of that method which we adopt. In that, they say it is safe environment learning. Students are focused on learning a particular area of the language we want to teach. But then there is a drawback in it also. Advantages and disadvantages are there. Okay. So what is the disadvantage of it? They say, but it makes students learn language item they may not be interested in or ready to learn, and gives them few opportunities to really use language for communication. Now, in the PPP method, although we focus them in a particular area, the student learn that particular item of the language, okay? But then the student may not be so interested in learning only that particular item. They may not be motivated to learn that. And that particular item learning may not be useful for them in communication. They may not be able to use that language in communication which they are learning in the PPP. So this kind of thing also can come disadvantage. The TBL approach, now we'll talk about the TBL side. On the other hand, allows students to find new language when they want to, and to use language experimentally, creatively for real communication. Now, in communication, one, the students can try different ways of expressing themselves in their way. Why you are not bounding them to practice this particular thing like in the PPP method. So you are giving an open area to them to use language for communication the way they want. All right. So they can use new language there. They can use their own way to express themselves in that communicative approach. In this way, It puts second language learners in situation which is quite similar to the one in which children learn their first language. And when we put the students in the communicative method, it's kind of similar the way the children learn their first language. Like if you see the children are learning first language, so when they learn first language, they freely use that language without keeping in mind the mistakes and all that. Although they do mistakes and all that, but nobody bothers about it. That is the method, communicative method. Why? Because now you see the children, they are speaking language in 1.5 year old and 2 years old, and they are halfway. They are not fully perfect in language, but they can communicate with the elders. You got it? That is the method which communicative approach adopts. They don't go for the language accuracy there. They go for the meaning communicated. Okay? So this is what they are talking over here, which is we adopt in the TBL method. Right. Some learners may find this approach to language learning exciting and challenging. Others may wish to for more guidance and structure to help them. Now, this language learning in the communicative way, there are also pros and cons on it, advantages and disadvantages of it. Some learners may find it interesting and challenging that to use and the language, how much they know and communicate it and experiment it and try it, the new language. But some other may not be so interested in that also. Why? Because there might be some who want to improve their grammatical side accuracy as well, which is not in the communication approach. We don't go for the grammar and structure accuracy. Okay, so all these methods which we talk, TBL and PPP approach, they have their advantages, they have their disadvantages. Okay, but anyhow, these are the methods, the way we teach. So TBL approach mostly suitable for the one who are improving their fluency in the language, and it is more giving like kind of relaxed type of learning of a topic. But if the topic is serious about learning the language accuracy, then we need to get into the PPP method. In that way, we can focus on accuracy of the structure and the grammar and the language rules. Okay, is this clear? Are you getting the point? Till this point, I'm clear to you, right? Okay, fine. Now we will go further to the next paragraph. PPP and TBL are not the only ways of presenting new language. Now, these two methods which we discussed, that's not the only way. It is also possible, for example, to present new language to learners after they have met it in a reading and listening text, which is first used for comprehension. We can also learn language in the reading and listening part, that is not the TBL and PPP method. Why? Because they listen to a CD and they do some task. They are given a reading comprehension, they do that and they do a task. Okay, so these two methods are not the only one. Different other methods also we use. Right. The teacher could ask student to underline example of target language in the text and then work out the meaning and use of the language. This is an example of using guided discovery and present target language. Another possibility is to do an oral activity such as discussion on a topic or tasks such as designing a new playground for the school, then introduce new language while the discussion on task is happening. Now, apart from the PPP and TBL method of teaching language, we also do teaching of language in different other ways, like we do in the skills base. For example, listening comprehension they do. So they do some tasks based on listening, they listen and they do that. So that is also another way of learning language, plus the reading comprehension are there. Or you give oral discussion to them, and based on that discussion, they have to discuss the different possibility of finding a solution to a problem which you have given, and they come up with the using of the language. So these are also different methods which we adopt in the our teaching methods and in our classrooms. Not only the PPP, but the PPP is the very common way of teaching. Almost all the institutes, schools, teachers, they follow that method. Okay, TBL is also used with the little bit adult students whose understanding is much matured, cognitive skills are much matured. All right, so then there are skills based, which reading, writing, listening activity, speaking activity we do, and we try to find out the target language in that, and we try to do some exercises based on that. So these all are different methods which we use in the teaching methodology, right? So they are not fixing themselves to one. They give that the different, as I told you, different tools for your language teaching. Another way of focusing on new language is through test, teach, test. Okay, this is another way of teaching language. What's the method? Test, teach, and test. In this, the teacher first gives learners a task that requires them to use target language. If this activity shows that the students don't know how to use the target language, the teacher will then present the new language, then give the students another task to practice the new language. In the first task shows that the student already know the target language sufficiently well. The teacher will move on to something else. Teach, test, teach, task. For example, you want to teach something. First, you take a test out of it, what you are going to teach. And then you see how much they know about it. Then from that point onward, you start teaching them how much they know, how much they don't. Can you people hear me? Because Nisha is
Yes.
saying that
Yes,
she
sir.
can't hear me properly. Okay, it might be some problem with the Nisha's connection. Anyhow, I'm already recording that, so I can share it with you. It's an important topic. Then you people can listen it again if you need something in it. Yeah, so Nisha has a problem anyhow. I will send her the recording. Fine. So teach, test, test, teach, test. Is that clear to you? This method? Like whatever you want to teach, first you make a test out of it and you give it to the student. Then you understand that how much they know about this, keeping the previous knowledge of the language. Then from that point onward, you teach them the whole. And after that, you take test again. And then you see how they have learned the whole thing. Okay. First test, how it was. And after teaching the test when you took, how they are. So that is another method of test, teach, test, which you can say TTT method, right? You can see that all presentation techniques contextualize target language. Contextualize means putting in a situation. All the presentation techniques, that is contextualizing. They put the language in a context which shows its meaning. The context can be provided by building a situation, using listening or reading text, doing a task, using relia, mime. What does relia mean? Something real object you present them, which is in the primary you do more. Mime, using the body, not words, convey meaning. Okay, so you just in the sign you mime that it's like this. Okay, and then they understand by those signs. Explanations, visuals, or combination of these. Then when learners learn target language, they need to know that what it means. Contextualizing aims to help learners to notice and understand meaning and while all the techniques focus on meaning of the target language, they may not all focus on so much on its form. For example, PPP and guided discovery focus on form and meaning, whereas task-based presentation focus more on meaning. That is, we have already discussed this point. PPP method is mostly focusing on meaning also, and not only meaning, it is focusing on the use of that also, and the vocabulary in that, the grammar, that is focusing. But the TBL method mostly, they don't focus on language that much. They focus on the meaning is conveyed or not, understood or not. Okay. Teachers different beliefs about how language learning task plays the role of form and meaning language learning, then prefer approach language teaching, and the age needs to be student will decide how much they prefer to focus on form. So what they say, it depends on the age, students learning ability, that how much need to be focused on teaching the form of the language, how much need to be focused on conveying the meaning of that. So you don't have to stick completely to TBL method or completely to the PPP method. Depends that what type of learner you have in the class and what is their requirement. But in the school, most of the time in the primary, you use PPP method, okay, where you explain that what they have to do. Primary mean not the 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 5, 6, like, you know, this kind of. So that's you adopt usual that, because this is the easy and safest way of teaching the language. All right. Introductory activities are different from presentation techniques. Now, introductory activity, we talk presentation techniques over here. Now, the next topic was introductory activity. They are the activities a teacher uses to introduce a lesson or teaching topic, or sometime to introduce new student to one another. Now, presentation, or we are talking about the activities. Introductory activities are what? So we teachers are using it for what? Introduce new student to one another. Like you got a class, they don't know each other, okay? Not in the school. Mostly it happens in the in the institutes, or where you are teaching language, you get different types of learners, they don't know each other. And if you look back to the PPP and TBL lesson on page 90 to 1, 90 and 91, you will see that they too include introductory activities. In that also introductory activities are there, like step 1 in the PPP lesson provides a lead-in to the topic. That is called lead-in activity. You can find the definition of it in the worksheet I'll be sending you. You can find in that also. The worksheet is very important of that. You will find these in it, and carefully read about it. And step 2 and 3, lead-in for language needed for the lesson's main aim. In the TBL lesson, step 1 and 2 are lead-ins. So lead-in activities are these steps which we have done in that lesson presentation. Okay, you can check it how it works and how the lead-in activities are used while teaching a lesson. The introductory stage of lesson helps students to settle into lesson and focus on its content. Now, why we do these introductory activities? Because the student might be not focused. Then when you want to make them focus and calm down and pay attention to that, so you do this kind of activity. They like to do it rather than straight away you are starting a lesson. So when there is a disturbance in the class and you know they came from the break or something, or so you want their focus. That's why we do these activities. Okay, there are two kinds of introductory activities: warmer and lead-ins. Warmers are often used to raise students' energy level. That's what you need to know. Why we use warmer? We use warmer to raise their energy levels to make them feel comfortable before the main learning of the lesson starts. Before starting the main lesson, you make them comfortable with the warmer to raise their energy level. So different activities do as a warmer, okay? They are not always connected to the topic of the lesson. Now, warmers, they may not be the connected to the lesson, what you are going to teach, but it is just to complete class, take the attention, and everyone wakes up and try to. So that kind of activity you do in the class just for 5 minutes, and then they are ready for the lesson. Then you can start the lesson. For example, there could be a quiz, game, or pair work activity. In the warmer, you can do quiz, or you can do a game, or you can do a pair work, but just for 5-10 minutes, not more than that. Right. Then comes lead in. Lead in introduce the content of the lesson. Now, lead in, as we talk about the warmers, they are they are energy level, but they are not dealing with the lesson. But here, lead in introduce the content of the lesson. Their aim is to focus and motivate students and make link between the topic and lesson in students' own lives. Personalization. For example, if students are going to read a text about the internet, rather than giving them the text immediately, we could do one or more lead-in activities, such as discussing with the student how often they use internet. Now we are going to teach about the internet. So lead-in activities, we ask them how often they use internet. Okay. Then they will come up with their own ways of using it. Then and what they use it for, what their favorite websites are, etc. So these kind of related question, the topic. So that is called lead-in. Lead-in activities are related to the topic you are going to teach. All right, warmer is not. Right, where is it there? Or if another lesson they are going to listen to a conversation about favorite television program, the lead-in activities might be making a list of their favorite television programs and discussing them with a partner. These activities probably involve pre-teaching language before students meet in a text, key vocabulary for the text, and the comprehension tasks that follow. So that is what is all about the lead-in activities. Is that clear? The lead-in activities and the warmers. Right. So then we go to the last para. In some classes, students don't know one another at the beginning of the term, and new students often join the class. In this situation, teachers sometimes another kind of introductory activity called icebreaker. Now, icebreaker is another introductory activity. That icebreaker is the aim of icebreaker is for students to get to know one another so that they all feel comfortable with each other in the class. For example, icebreaking are doing mingling survey. Mingling survey mean that's also an activity. What is it? Learners find out information from others by asking questions and using questionnaires, and they go and talk to each other. So what happens? That is called ice breaking. Ice breaking activity is to introduce the students to each other. All right. Another is asking students to work in a group and find out that they have in what they have in common: favorite TV programs, favorite website, favorite color. So I hope these three are clear to you. Icebreaker is used when a new class is there, students they don't know each other, so then you familiarize them that they should be feeling comfortable with each other in the class. Okay. And lead-in are the activities which are done related to the topic which you are going to teach. That is that. And then the warmer is in order to energize the student and let them to focus. The whole class become that kind of activity which is not necessarily dealing with the topic. It might be any kind of activity to make them focus. All these introductory activities, three which we discussed, is that clear? Or any question? All right. Okay. Then we will go to the key concept language teaching in the classroom. Presenting new language involves the teachers in making various choices. When to present the target language before, as in the PPP or in the TBL, learners try to use it. What language item to present, which new grammatical structure, new vocabulary, new lexical phrases, and new functional exponent. How many of these to present together? Right. What context to choose to present the language in? The context needs to be meaningful, showing meaning of the and personalized. Personalized, connected to the student's life. Personalized mean which is dealing with their life. Okay. Like of the internet, when you are going to teach a topic about the internet, and you ask how you are personalizing it, you are asking that how often they use it, what for they use it, okay, and what are the websites they use it. So then that is, you are personalizing that for them. Whether to focus on meaning or also some aspect of form, grammar, pronunciation, spelling, this choice will depend a lot on your learners. This we discussed before. That depends, you want to focus them on the meaning or on the grammar and forms, okay, or it should be mixture of it. It depends, and then accordingly you can adopt the methods which we discussed before, what type of method to be used. Now let's see what's on the next. All right. What aids to use to help create the context? For example, picture, DVD, CD, worksheet. Like, what are the material available with you? What are the teaching aids available? You need DVD player, CD player, or pictures to be done, or some worksheets need to be given to them. All right. How to show the meaning or use of target language, for example, explanation, translation, presenting through situation. So these all are the different methods which we adopt in the classroom. These are different points. You can note it down which is relevant to you, which you can pick, but they give you different options of it. Using warmer as introductory activity makes the student feel comfortable, that we discussed, and ready for the lesson. If the learners arrive at a lesson ready to learn and all at the same time, you may not always need to do warmers. But for example, it is some are ready, some are not ready. Okay, and in that kind of situation, you need to do a warmer, then you make all of them ready for the lesson. But if all are in the same situation, for example, they all came from outside, this just settled, then you may not. Why? Because their focus is exactly on you and the lesson, so may not need a warmer at the time. Maybe you do a lead-in activity. Okay, lead-in introduce the content of the lesson. They give the learner a chance to remember these thoughts and experiences of content before they start actually working on it. And in this way, they are better prepared for the work. So if the students are already ready and focused, then you better do a lead-in activity with them, which is related to the topic which you are going to teach. Next is the ways you present new language or introduce lesson will depend on your learner. That is always is the question. You are going to present a lesson. Depends what type of learner you have. Their level, what is the level of the language? Their interest and age, what they like to do in the language. What are they interested in most? What type of activities? And what's their age? Are they young learners? They are teenagers, or they are adults? What language they already know, weaknesses and the strength in English, and learning styles. What type of learner they are, what are their learning styles, what are their weaknesses, and on the resources available to you in your school and approach presentation used in the coursebook, and what type of resources you have to teach the language. So all these things you need to take in consideration in order to adopt that in your teaching. Okay, so I hope the topic of the presentation and introductory activities is clear. If there is any question, I would be happy to answer. Yes.